What if the most powerful things you can do to age well are also the simplest? If, like me, you've reached midlife, you've probably found your social media full of longevity content. Supplement stacks, cold plunges, and Brian Johnson tracking his VO2 max on a treadmill. It's all very complicated. And too complicated creates the very real risk of doing nothing. But the cost of doing nothing is real. So inaction after 50 reduces our life expectancy and our health span. That's our number of healthy years. So what should you actually prioritise when it comes to healthy ageing? I'm Ruth, retired doctor turned health coach and nutritionist, and in this video I'll take the 5 biggest things that science says move the needle on how you age and shrink each one down to a single tiny habit you can start tomorrow. Nothing complicated or expensive, just simple lifestyle changes that future-proof your health. And I've got a small challenge for you at the end too. Let's start by looking at the evidence. So what are the factors that have the biggest impact on longevity? And this study from Nature Medicine looked at data from the UK Biobank, which follows the lives of 500,000 volunteers. Now, excluding the things we can't do anything about, so age, sex, and economic status, number 1 is smoking. And I'm assuming that most of you don't smoke. But if you do, please look at getting some help with quitting because it's categorically the best thing you can do to improve your health. Just behind smoking is physical activity. Forget diet, well, don't forget diet, but movement has the biggest impact on how long we live. And it really is significant, so I'll give you the stats. Now, according to this analysis of 32 research studies, being consistently active is linked to a 30 to 40% lower risk of death from any cause in later life. But what's really interesting is that it's never too late to start because doing something is better than doing nothing. So participants who switched from being physically inactive to being active were 22% less likely to die from any cause than those who remained inactive, even if they were doing less than the recommended amount. So increasing activity at any time in adult life and by any amount is beneficial. And the best type of exercise? Well, aerobic exercise is associated with the biggest benefits, but the people who live longest are the ones who mix it up and cover all bases. So aerobic for cardiovascular health, strength training, and work on mobility and balance. But those gym visits, well, they might not be enough because we have a mortal enemy, and it's one of these, and I'm pointing at my chair if you're listening in the car. A sedentary lifestyle is an independent risk factor for dying younger. And this study in older women found a correlation between time spent sitting and mortality, so dying. And it was independent of exercise, so exercise alone doesn't save you from the effects of a sedentary lifestyle. So why are small movements throughout the day so important? Well, they help to clear fats and glucose from the blood, which helps to keep your metabolism healthy. This study showed that multiple small breaks are better at doing this than one bigger break. And if we take this into consideration, let's focus on these small and frequent non-exercise moments for tiny habit number 1. Anything else that you do is a bonus. Take movement breaks through your day, and here's how. So ideally get up and move once an hour, particularly after meals. Just a short walk around your house or office, and if you've got the privacy, squats or lunges are an alternative. And if, like me, you get focused on your work, set an alarm. And if a phone alarm increases the risk of doom scrolling, go old school with a timer. And thanks to lovely viewer Sally who suggested this. It might not feel like much, but if you're currently going to the gym but still sitting for 8 hours a day, then sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but your dumbbells might not save you from your negative effects of your desk chair. So take movement breaks seriously and schedule them. Next up in the top 5 is sleep, and sleep can become problematic for many of us at or after the menopause. So I'll explain why this matters and the top tip from sleep experts. Disturbed sleep worsens insulin resistance, which increases as we age. Poor sleep also makes us more likely to crave refined carbohydrates, and it increases the release of the hunger hormone ghrelin. It also makes us too tired to exercise, and all of this contributes to weight gain, and it becomes a vicious cycle. Now, there's individual variation, but research has shown that the optimal amount of sleep per night is 7 to 9 hours, with too little and too much having a negative effect on health. But all too often, modern life gets in the way of good sleep. So unlike our pets who instinctively prioritise rest, humans often sacrifice sleep for work or social activities or other demands. And it can take time to establish a good sleep routine because there's lots of things to consider. So food and drink, activity, stress, your bedroom environment. So where should you start? Well, that number one tip I promised you is to go to bed and get up at the same time every day. And yes, that includes weekends, and that's tiny habit number 2. It sets your body's circadian rhythm, that's your internal body clock. And the best advice from my friend, neurologist and sleep expert, Dr. Sui Wong, I'll link her channel below, is to start with your getting up time. Then based on how much sleep you think you need, set your going to bed time. You can then work backwards in intervals of 15 to 30 minutes until you find your optimum amount of sleep. And then stick to those times wherever possible. Consistency is the best way to establish a rock-solid sleep routine. So now we've nailed our tiny habits for activity and sleep. If you optimise these, you've hit the major drivers of longevity. So more so than diet, but diet isn't irrelevant, and the data on this is going to upset some people. Now, when it comes to lifespan, plants are where it's at. And multiple observational studies have demonstrated that higher intakes of fruit, veggies, whole grains, unsaturated fats, nuts, seeds and legumes are linked to better odds of healthy ageing. Now, I don't consider a video where I mention nutrition a success these days unless at least one person shimmies into my comment section and tells me I'm wrong for suggesting we eat more plants. So if you are that person, hiya! The critics often point out that a lot of nutrition research is based on observational studies, and these determine association, not cause. So eating plants is associated with reduced mortality, but we cannot say that eating plants causes reduced mortality. I hope that makes sense. However, there is no realistic alternative. We simply couldn't do a randomised controlled trial by feeding people different types of food and following them closely for 20 years. No one would sign up for that. And observational data is valid. It's how we worked out that smoking causes lung cancer, which it unequivocally does. And the data clearly says plants are beneficial, and this is for a number of reasons. They provide protein, healthy fats and fibre, and they contain polyphenols. So these are compounds which are often responsible for the plant's colour, which have anti-inflammatory and heart health benefits in humans. So tiny habit number 3 is to eat more plants. Start by trying to fill half of your dinner plate with vegetables and aim for diversity. The ideal is 30 plants a week, which sounds impossible, but remember herbs, spices, nuts and seeds are all plants. And so are tea, coffee and chocolate, bonus. To help you, I've made a 30 plant challenge PDF, which you can download from the link in the description below. Now, hopefully this challenge will help you to make some healthy food choices, but all too often those choices get derailed by stress. And we know that stress affects longevity, and chronic stress has been shown to increase the cellular signs of ageing. So let's use an example. Now, I recently had a one-to-one session with a client. She knows what to eat, but she's got a really stressful job. And when the pressure builds, she tends to reach for the sugary snacks as a reward and then mentally beats herself up for her choices. And she's not alone. It's a really common scenario, and most of us do it, myself included. So the key is to reduce the stress, to reduce the trigger for the snack habit. Easier said than done, right? Well, my client needed something small and easy that she could do in the moment. And whilst I'm a fan of meditation and journaling, they aren't practical in a busy office, so I suggested trying some breathing exercises. Research shows that slow breathing activates the autonomic nervous system. This is what controls stress and relaxation. And 6 breaths per minute seems to be the sweet spot. Plus, lengthening the exhale activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which just calms everything down. So to achieve 6 slow breaths a minute, try breathing in for 4 seconds and out for 6. And that's it. Try it for a minute or two a couple of times a day. Again, set a reminder if you need to. And I hear you, you're thinking that will never work. And my client expressed the same healthy dose of skepticism, but was open-minded and gave it a go. She made sure she took her breathing breaks and used a habit tracker for accountability. And yes, she found she was reaching for the sweet treats less. So give breathing breaks a try for tiny habit number 4. And on the subject of stress reduction, remember the last time you met a good friend for coffee? That bond, the way conversation clicked, like you'd just seen each other yesterday rather than 3 months ago. I am willing to bet you felt more relaxed afterwards, and this is the power of human connection. And it's one of the most underrated drivers of longevity. So going back to the nature study I referenced at the beginning of the video, cohabiting is right up there in between physical activity and sleep, but we don't have to live with someone to connect. Humans are social creatures. We're born into extended families and we spend our lives creating networks of friends and colleagues. And there's an increasing body of evidence that points to the health-promoting benefits of social connection. People with good social connections live longer, and those with poor relationships have a 29% increased risk for coronary heart disease. So loneliness literally kills. But the problem is that we're all busy and caught up in the minutiae of our own lives. We don't always prioritise connection. It's vital to treat a meeting with a friend with as much reverence and importance as you would a business meeting. So your challenge and tiny habit number 5 is to message a dear friend who you've not seen in a while. Arrange a meetup, schedule it and put it in your diary. Take your phone out now, send a text, make it happen. Let me know in the comments if you do. So that's it, 5 tiny habits. Schedule movement breaks throughout the day. Go to bed and get up at the same time. Try the 30 plant challenge, download the PDF below. Do some 4-6 breathing a couple of times a day and text a friend for coffee or tea. You might already have some of these habits nailed, but if you're missing 1 or 2, make a start tomorrow and start creating the conditions to thrive in older age. And if you want to take things a little further and start or restart a regular exercise regime, but you don't know where to begin, watch this video next.